Welcome to the channel. So you just got a new 3D printer and you're not really sure what to do next, or your existing 3D printer just isn't working like you think it should. Well, you've come to the right place. In this video, I'll go over the steps needed to ensure your printer is working optimally. In order to do this, you'll need a few things. A square. I use a speed square in the video. A tape measure or ruler, and a flat surface. I use the floor for a flat surface. Keep in mind, this video is really a starting point, and we're only going to address the hardware side of things. I'll have other videos to address things such as steps and flow control, so stay tuned for those. Also keep in mind that this video is really for cartesian style printers. Some call them H-frame printers. But the majority of the techniques presented here will apply to any printer. If you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe for more content like this one. Alright, let's get started. For this step, we're going to take our printer and put it on a flat surface, like the floor. Then we're going to press on each one of the corners, and it shouldn't move. It should be completely flat. If you press on any of the corners and you feel it move, then you need to loosen these bolts and the others on the other side. Just loosen them. Don't take them out. Just loosen them. And then press on the corners again till it's all flat. Once you know all four sides are flat, go ahead and tighten up the four side bolts. You don't want them super tight. Just make sure they're good and snug. Do this on both sides. As you can see, this is a new printer and they're all loose. Again, don't over tighten them. It's aluminum, it'll strip out. Now we're going to check that our gantry is square. If you find that it's not, you'll need to loosen the two bolts at the top for that side and the two bolts at the bottom, normally underneath the printer for that side, and then get it so it is in square. Once you're happy with the gantry, then go ahead and tighten down the bolts at the top and underneath so that we know it's not going to go anywhere. You might have to move the filament holder like I do here. Now we want to set our tension on our V-wheels. Having the right tension allows the gantry to move up and down smoothly. If you look, this is in like a little triangle shape. The one that's by itself is normally the one we want to change. This one here is the one we'll modify. If you look at the hot end, it also has that triangular shape. This is the one we want to modify. Sometimes you'll see them in groups of four though. And if you look at the back of the wheel, you'll see that there's a hex nut back there. The ones that you can't change, they just have standoffs. You see, these are standoffs. This is the hex nut. Now we want to set this so that the wheel will rotate with a little bit of force. Not a lot of force, but two fingers should be able to rotate it. You should have been given a wrench with the printer. You want to take that and rotate it just a little bit and then check it. Now it's way too loose. So we'll go in the opposite direction just a little bit. See, now it's too tight. So just minor adjustments. But you want to be able to rotate it easily but with some resistance. You don't want it free spinning. You also want to do this on all of the eccentric nuts on the gantry, so this side, the other side, and the hot end. And check the others just to make sure that they're not free spinning also. The top one might be a little harder than the rest just because of the weight. Now that we've set our eccentric nuts and have our V-wheels right, we want to rotate the gantry up and down a little bit to let everything settle. And then we're going to check them again. You might find that it's more tight or more loose at this point. If so, just go back and readjust. Now we need to set the V-wheel tension for the bed. You do this just like you did on the X gantry. You need to adjust the eccentric nuts on this side. Normally they'll be on the right side. Look at your bed and see if it's different. Now that we have our tension set, we're going to check that our gantry is actually flat or parallel with our frame. Raise your gantry up a bit and then just measure one side and then measure the other side. And mine is a little bit off. Looks like about a 32nd. And I'm not going to worry about that. That's okay, because when we level the bed, we'll take that out. But if you're really far off, you'll need to adjust it. Now the easy way to adjust it is just to loosen the eccentric nuts on each side of the gantry. And then you can kind of move it a little bit and then tighten them back up once it's where you want it to be. If that doesn't work and you're really far out, you're going to have to disassemble the gantry. Basically, there's a screw, there's two right here on this side, and then there's one on this side. You can leave this side alone probably and just loosen the other side, but you'll have to do that in order to get it back in a square. Now we want to check our tension for our belts. You really don't want belts loose. That's the important thing. You want them tight enough so that they'll grip the sprockets. But move your bed out of the way and you want to pluck it on the open part. You need a large space like I have here that's open. It should be kind of a bassy note. This is the tensioner. Each printer has their own way of tensioning these, but it's normally something like this. X gantry is the same. It's not really picking up the sound, but here's the tensioner. Again, the important thing is you just don't want it loose. If it's too loose, it won't stay in time. Now we need to do our bed. So we want to go to the left front and tighten it all the way down. This will help us to set our height for our end stop. Even if you don't have an end stop, this is a good thing to do. Just tighten it all the way down. We want to compress that spring all the way. And this will give us a gauge on where we want to set it, because we want to set it at half compression. So once we have it all the way tight, then we're going to loosen off halfway. So now that it's tight, let's go and loosen it up again halfway. This way You know, if we need to adjust up or down, we have plenty of movement. So we're right in the middle, or thereabouts. And we want to do this to all four. Now that we have our bed set where we want, we're going to have to move our end stop. Mine's an optical on this printer. You might have one that looks like this clicky. Either way, they do the same thing, just in a little bit of a different way. So if we want to move our bed all the way back, and then we want to move our gantry so that the hot end is right over the corner of our bed. And then we want to lower it till it's right above the bed. Get it as close as you can. We don't actually want it on it, and we definitely don't want it pressing, but right above it. And we'll take out whatever's left by adjusting the bed when we go to level it. But now we need to move our end stop so it's in the right position. So get your Allen keys. There we go. Right above the bed. For mine, it's an optical, so I need to turn the printer on. If you have a clicky type, you don't need to turn it on. Just get it so that it's compressing that arm. But loosen it up. And then we're going to slide it down, in my case, till the light goes off. And then raise it till the light just turns on. Just drop it down till it goes off, and then raise it up till the light just comes on. And then we want to tighten it there. And this will set our end stop so that the printer knows this is where the bed is. Make sure it's tight so that it's not going to move. Good. And now we're going to want to go into our printer and tell it to home. And there we go. So now we know we're not pressing on the bed. And it's finding everything like it's supposed to. We're right above the bed. Now that we have our end stop set and our bed mostly where we want it, we need to actually level the bed. And my printer has an actual leveling setup. If yours doesn't, you can just move the head till it's in the right position. We start at 1 and do our left front first. I don't like paper. I use a feeler gauge. This is a 0.1 millimeter. It's, in my opinion, better to do it this way. But slide it underneath the nozzle and then raise or lower the bed till that feeler gauge just barely buzzes that nozzle. You feel just a slight restriction on it. Then we go to the next location. And again, rinse, repeat. Slide it under there. Move the bed up or down however you need to till you feel just a slight bit of resistance. Then we'll do the back corner. See, this is really tight. Now remember, as you do this, you're going to need to do this several times. Go through the whole bed several times. The key is that you want to be able to go through the entire bed without having to change anything. If you have to change one corner, then you're going to have to do the entire bed again, because every corner impacts another corner in some way. But just keep repeating this process until you get the bed to where it needs to be without any modification, going around all four corners. And again, you just want a slight resistance. If you're using paper, that's fine. It's the same thing. You just want a slight resistance. I would invest in a feeler gauge. Again, in my opinion, they work a lot better than using paper. But I would do it 2 or 3 times minimum. This is a real important step. This is probably the hardest part of 3D printing for new people to get, is leveling out the bed. And just keep going across. And you'll eventually get it to where everything's level. And you don't have to change anything. Again, if you have to modify any of the screws in any corner, go around the entire bed again. And just rinse, repeat. If your printer has ABL, now we need to set our Z offset. Instead of moving the bed like we were doing before, now we need to move the nozzle. So take your feeler gauge and put it underneath the nozzle just like we did for our bed level. We just want to feel a little bit of resistance. Your printer should have some provision for you to move the nozzle up or down for Z offset. Just do that until you feel a little bit of resistance. Then once you do feel that resistance, save your settings. And that'll be our Z offset. At this point, it's time for us to actually test how well our level is. So go to Thingiverse or Printables or wherever you get your STLs and find you a bed level test. That's for the printable area of your bed. This one's 235 by 235. And then look at it once it's printed out. You're looking for any type of gap. You can see here I have gaps in this corner. Now if you have ABL, you would adjust your Z offset. For me, I need to adjust that side of the bed up a little bit. And then reprint. Now that I've made my changes, you can see that I no longer have any gaps. And then I want to feel to see whether or not I have any ridges. I shouldn't feel any bumps in the print. It should be smooth with no gaps. If you do have gaps or bumps, just adjust your bed again and repeat until you don't have them anymore. At this point, your printer should be functional. I wouldn't call it dialed in yet because there's still a lot left to do. You need to set the steps for your extruder to make sure it's pushing the right amount of filament. You need to do flow calibration, extrusion multiplier for your filament. You need to set your temperature for your filament. All of these are things that I'll have videos for coming up. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. And like it if you want to see more content like that. Happy printing.